Hello and welcome to episode 306 of The Crate and Crowbar. It is the 11th of December 2019. My name is Chris Thurston and joining me tonight is Alex Wiltshire.
Hey, it's the double.
It's the double act you've always dreamed of. Have we never done a solo?
Yeah, we have. It's a very treasured memory of mine, at least one of them. We've done at least one.
At least one.
Maybe two.
Did we have like quite a wine?
We did a winey one, yeah.
A winey one.
It got quite,
as in the drink,
got quite sultry.
Sultry.
It did. It got warm.
Cozy. Well, we've home invaded Marsh's house because he's away at the moment.
Yeah.
In order to seize the apparatus, seize the means of podding production for ourselves, and claim it. That is the most political statement I really want to make because I'm very conscious that we are recording this on the eve of the UK's general election, and we're going to publish it on the aftermath of the UK's general election.
So we're full of hope right now. I mean, like, everything couldn't be better.
Hope's a real strong word, Alex. But people are going to be going through what they're going through right now, and so I just don't really want to talk about it. Is that cool with you?
Yeah, because I'm more than happy. I'd almost forgotten it.
Right. Yeah, I struggle too. It recurs like
you haven't put enough big enough barriers up on your social media then.
I erected all my barriers for Star Wars. And I let other things slip through. But that being as it may, let's talk about the news of interactive digital computer entertainment games.
There has been some news.
There has been. A game announcement this deep in December. Who'd do that?
Every day, like, it's the Game Awards though, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah, coming up.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And also, yeah, there was a Sony event and a Nintendo event.
Right. Oh, yeah, we're in that week this year.
That time.
I see. Yeah, because the reason I made that little that tone of voice was because this Friday, so the day this podcast is due to come out, is the 1 year anniversary of Hytale's announcement, which I deliberately planned for the week after all of that, so that we wouldn't get so that Jeff Keighley wouldn't drive a big bus full of stuff all over my dreams.
He did that anyway, but in a different way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But yeah, so long story short, a lovely trailer for Resident Evil 3 remake, which this has come up rather soon, I thought. So this is coming out in April.
It's coming out. I hadn't been paying quite enough attention.
Yeah.
It's coming out in April.
Yeah.
Which is what, like a year after Resi 2?
Pretty much. I think Resi 2 was February.
Heck
indeed. It's a remake of Resi 3 in the same way that this year's Resi 2 was a remake of Resi 2. There's not much information other than the trailer, I believe, but as far as I know, it is a different game, but, with the same story, which is essentially what they did for this Resi 2 as well. But
that means that it's been in production for a good while longer. One probably can.
One would assume, although I guess there could be some overlap because Resi 3 is an immediate prequel to Resi 2. It's set in Raccoon City.
Yeah.
And I thought what's interesting is that, obviously this is if you're getting Resident Evils mixed up, which is completely forgivable, this is the one where, Jill is chased around by Nemesis, the biggest, buffest, toothiest zombie man in a coat yet. And obviously, Resi 2 had its own line in being chased by a man in a
less
coat.
Good, but somehow like more recent.
Yeah, exactly.
Model.
Yeah. Well, he wears a hat, which is the big upgrade.
That's true, yeah.
You can shoot his hat off, as I think Tom Jones once sang. But yeah, so the trailer seems to indicate that it's very much more of that. It was sort of mixture of cinematic and like first person play, I believe, but did include the sort of, you can smash this window yellow tape, like police tape stuff, if I'm remembering that right from Resi 2. Did you play Resi 2?
Yeah, where you put the board up.
Yeah, sorry, you can smash this, you can board this, the opposite of smashing.
What an advance.
No, incredible. In fact, yeah, so I suspect, more of that, basically. But it's kind of cool that they've, knocked another one out quite quickly.
I mean, maybe it was a safe bet, 2 years ago or whatever, like, let's get 2 in.
Yeah.
And then I can't remember when that one was revealed, but I don't know how close it was to launch. It was a fair while. It was maybe a year or so was my vague memory.
It was a fair while. And it was also the first trailer, if I remember right, was very, very vague. Yeah. Like, I think the scope of what they had done with that, like it is, I think
that's true.
Resi 2, it won the Golden Joystick for Game of the Year this year. Like it's a good game. It's definitely one of the year's best. But like, I don't think people necessarily knew what that meant, that they were doing a remake, and it turned out to be this.
Well, it's sort of like you don't dare believe that a remake might actually lean on the very best things about that old game while updating everything else to modern standards.
Right, yeah. It's interesting because I think Resident Evil is a series that everyone in the world checked out of by a certain point, because there were too many of them. They made no sense. This Resi 3 will catch up with Jill. I had this weird memory of like playing Resi 5, I think, and trying to piece this all together in my head. Did you play Resi 5?
Yeah, I did. That was that was the one in Africa.
In Africa for some of it, but it's the one where you find out, and I believe, so spoilers for a bad game. Shock horror, Jill's back, but now she's like Samus from Metroid. She's like she's a cyborg ninja warrior in
didn't get that
Metal
far.
Gear bodysuit with bleach blonde hair now.
And
she has to do slow-mo backflips to evade Wesker 5 or something. It got into that real bollocks. It climbed all the way up and down the Kojima tree.
I would really like,
came back down with bad fruit.
I think that Resi 6 needs to be looked back upon, because that one seems completely batshit.
Yeah,
like in
right.
tone and style, and it's very, very, very long, I believe, as well. I didn't try it because people said it was so long. And I think the start was terrible, I seem to remember.
But I think this is the great thing about, if any series has really benefited from remakes, it's this one, where it's kind of an interesting phenomenon, I suppose, because you don't really need a new story, because it's a zombie story. You're going to run around and be scared. You're going to get a better gun and feel better. You're going to enter a puzzle area. You'll do a puzzle. You're going to go to a shit place where it's hard. Then you're going to go to a clean place and where the evil started.
Yeah.
And then it's going to end.
With you on a jet ski,
train.
Hopefully train, yeah.
Jeep, helicopter.
He's going through all of the game.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be the same thing every time. So why not just remake the ones where there wasn't quite so much guff attached to it. So I'm quite pleased that they're doing this.
So I think that, when did Ready Zero came out after 4, didn't it?
Yeah, it was like 2000 and...
It wasn't the next one. So after 3, are they going to remake 4? That's the question for me.
Well, wouldn't they have to remake Code Veronica first?
Oh, that's the one in between, yes.
It is, yeah.
That was a good one as well.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Real good.
Is that Claire Redfield running around on an oil rig?
Yep. Maybe in the end, yes.
An oil rig? I remember being an oil rig, but I was a child.
Yeah. I had that on Dreamcast.
Me too.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah, man. Yeah, well, because it was a Dreamcast game. Yeah, man. Code Veronica remake would be great.
Because that was the first 3D one as well, like proper 3D one.
Yeah, I remember being mind blown by it. Yeah. Obviously, they're all 3D games, but all without paint.
But it was the one with kind of like a dynamic sort of camera. The others were all fixed kind of rendered backgrounds. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, I don't know if they would. I'd be interested to see if they did a Resi 4 remake.
Because there are fewer places you can take it other than where it already was. And,
right.
And also, it's been re-released so many times now. There are so many different versions kind of floating around. I think the last one that came out wasn't that long ago.
Right.
Wasn't it, I don't know, just a year ago
I think it came out on PC not too long ago.
That's the one, yeah.
Or
a version came out on PC.
But also all the Resi remakes have basically been about realizing all the other games would be better if they were Resi 4. So, because that's when it really became what it is, I think. And so... I tell you what, I would be really interested in them putting out the original version of Resi 4. Have you ever seen that? The one where it's like grimdark Luigi's Mansion. Like it's all ghosts with scissors chasing you.
Yeah.
Like that would be a curio. That'd be cool. Because also the other thing about Resi 4 is a brilliant game, but it's also the point, I think, in the series. Maybe Code Veronica does this somewhat, but it's definitely the point in the series where it goes properly off the rails. Like in terms of, I thought genuinely that Resi 2's like performances were pretty good. They benefited from the vocab, they made the characters a bit more believable. It's obviously like schlocky kind of spy thriller zombie movie stuff.
But they wanted a realistic city. Like it traded on this is a city gone to shit.
Yeah. Whereas, how do they do Resi 4 and make the bit where a wee little Napoleon man turns into a tentacle flower, work,
in his gothic fucking castle?
Yeah. Like, how do you get followed around by, by Zer from Destiny? What you buying? Like, you can take the camp out of Resident Evil, but I don't think you can take the camp out of Resident Evil 4. Like,
yeah.
I mean, the fact that you're there to rescue the president's daughter, and that's the one that ends with a jet ski.
It does. That's the one, isn't it?
That is the jet ski one. Yeah.
Then, of course, it then veered off to 5, which is like, let's do Africa.
I mean, when did 5 come out? Was it 2008 or 9 or something?
Yeah, I think I would guess 8.
Yeah. It was troubling enough to elicit this is troubling takes in 2008.
Yeah.
Which is telling because, because games make Crit broadly very much a snoozing in that period.
So right now, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I don't know. Yeah, I think, to be honest, to be perfectly open with them, to redo Resident Evil 1 again, because it's been a long time since that remake.
See, I don't know whether you could do, because that one, because it's so confined to
one
a
location.
tight space, I'm not sure that it would work as well. Because Resident Evil 2 actually ends up being quite sprawling. They took out some of the streets and things in the original game, or did they?
I remember it going quickly, but I remember the original game being interminable because I was a child.
Yeah. But, I mean, and obviously the first half is in the police station, but it was quite large. Yeah, the house. If you go first person or even third person kind of Resi 4 things, you need space.
You do. Yeah.
You need big rooms and you need big space. Like the halls of the police station, you can fit lots of zombies in. You can fit a crowd in.
Yeah, there's a sort of, maybe we're turning this into Resi design chat, but there's sort of, one thing, the Dark Souls school of sort of environment design suits Resident Evil really well. And Resi 2 almost went there in terms of you finding shortcuts that take you suddenly back to the start of the game or whatever to hoover up collectibles. But it doesn't really commit to it. It is ultimately, you find shortcuts back to where you started in order to maybe find some secrets or something like that. But, and I appreciate that I just tooted that low-hanging flute like immediately. But it doesn't make a maze out of that or a kind of, you're not sort of completing a kind of coherent pattern. You're ultimately trying to get to
You're doing on certain courses through.
Yeah. It's all about your progress deeper into the, umbrella facility, really, when it comes down to it. But I think that if they expanded the mansion concept somewhat.
Well, one was much more like there is a house and you'll go in multiple journeys, like crossing the same areas. It was much more crisscrossing, much more visiting areas that you'd already been to. In my memory, the last time I played that, I think it's been re-released recently as well.
It has, yeah.
But the last time I played that was GameCube version, so that would have been 2001.
Yeah, but yeah, they're
there.
They're doing it again.
Yeah, it's good.
Mad kids.
I saw a trailer as well.
Yeah, what trailer did you see?
I saw a trailer for Twin Peaks VR.
I can't believe I hadn't seen this before you mentioned it right before we started recording.
Tell me about some of if you were making that trailer and you needed to come up with some sort of cards with kind of phrases on them that would excite people while also being, very much expressive of the theme and the setting of its inspiration. What kinds of things would you like to put
as in, when you say cards, what do you
mean?
We're
talking about like 3 words, of like feature list style kind of words.
Who killed Laura?
See, that would be good.
Pie is nice.
Drink coffee.
Coffee. Yeah. Heart symbol, Audrey Horne.
So, collect Easter eggs wouldn't be one? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Yeah. would explore iconic locations. Do you think that's within the within the IP?
I think you can. I think there is space in a kind of Lynchian psychosphere for the idea of an iconic location to take on real meaning. So yeah,
so I agree, but this is against a slow panning view of a kind of a not a very good quality VR rendition of the police station, I'm afraid, rather than
that is. Oh man, what an iconic location. Okay, what else?
And another one was discover hidden secrets.
How's that different to collect Easter eggs? Is the collect Easter eggs one really literal? Because that would also be an incredible twist.
Well, soon after the Easter eggs one, there was Bob, his face superimposed on something flying around a room.
You can't just say something.
Well, it looked like
Please
a ball.
describe.
It looked like a ball, and then I saw a screenshot, and it looked like a sort of a rock, maybe. But it's not a great looking game.
Who is making this?
I don't know. I've not heard of them, and it's gone from my mind.
Okay.
But apparently, David Lynch is collaborating on it.
Then I will give it a
fully believe.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, I feel like it's very hard to judge ahead of time what manner of folly this will be.
I found it really fascinating because, like, I think that the Twin Peaks, the show, like, has this kind of playful relationship with the way that films can be literal about kind of weird shit, right? You know, you have to show stuff, but then there's a tension between that and being kind of suggestive and all these other things. You end up with a very expressive. Games are not so good about being weird, or at least they take a very, very careful hand to do proper weird. And every scene that I saw in that trailer, was basically just a mashup of things the iconic things from the TV show.
Right.
And so, like, I think that it's weirdness. So I don't know what you do in the game. That was not clear at all. It's sort of a disjointed, dislocated set of kind of scenes and Easter egg claims. There was one thing though, and it was putting some sort of brass ball into a very, very long trombone.
It sounds amazing. Because here's the thing. Like, Twin Peaks: The Return basically proved this. Like, in order to do a more material in that environment, you can't do it again. Which sounds like that may be the mistake of the,
I think feels that they've,
you know, like, it is a tone or an atmosphere or a mood or whatever. It's not a specific set of characters or places or events, really. Although obviously calling back to that stuff helps. The problem is people want the familiar thing.
Well, I want to see the giant. How tall is he?
Yeah, well, right. Well, this is the thing, right? Like, when people are fans of things, they want to see it over and over again, and they don't want it to change, but they will be vastly disappointed if it's the same. But also, it's just a strange thing to be, particularly when the point of the thing itself is to be strange.
Yeah.
And to be not what you expect.
Yeah.
And to unsettle.
But also, like, it's VR, so you're also going to have, like, physics things to fuck about with your hands. Like brass balls. Like, so, okay, we're going to be weird about this. How about a brass ball and a trombone? There you go.
I think, do you know what they should do? They should just put this out and be whatever the fuck it is, right? Like, just walking around, putting balls in trombones, smashing things off tables, you know, walk into the Double R diner or whatever and like tip some stuff on the floor.
Yeah, put a pie on the
ground. Then, Lynch should just drop on Netflix or Amazon or wherever a whole new season, like Twin Peaks: The Return 2 or whatever, which is just a story set out, whatever the fuck they choose to do with it it matters, but you know, whatever. And just in the background of certain shots, there's just a character
playing the game
who is knocking shit off tables, putting things in trombones.
This is the solution.
Yeah, like, and people watching the TV show will be like, who the fuck is this? And people playing the game will be like, what the fuck am I? And that is that's
a conversation between mediums.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There you go. So if that's what he does,
that'd be exactly what this should be. Yeah. And perhaps it is. Like, let's assume it is. That's what's happening. I'm very excited about this. This is good.
Can't believe they're doing a new season of Twin Peaks. Do you reckon what would be better? Would it be that it's just a random person in the background who appears to just wave their arms around, knock stuff over, and sort of look really like big head movements as they look around? Or would it be better if it was just like a pair of disembodied, like Vive controllers, like flinging around the environment?
Like sort of poltergeist. Kind
Yeah.
of. I like the idea that it's sort of, you know, it goes to a particular location where you always see this person doing something.
Better idea. What if it's someone wearing a VR headset, holding the controllers, walking around the actual set, knocking things over in the background? Like, you know, when you see those, like the adverts for VR, and there's always people like, they always try and establish that it's a social experience that you shouldn't be embarrassed to be seen doing, which is the biggest lie of these adverts. So there's always someone wearing they take the headset off a little bit and they're like, sweat on the brow, but behind them, the girlfriend looks very impressed.
Yeah. Wow.
That
looks great.
What you're doing is socially
so cool.
acceptable. And, you know, that would be a great, like, just have that person in the background. Flailing, knocking stuff over. No relationship to the plot whatsoever, but people who play the game.
Sometimes the nose drowns out the actual dialogue.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Knocks into the camera.
Patches into something. Like, yeah, it has to go get batteries for one of the controllers or charge it or something. Like, reaches the extent of the cable at some point.
Yanks the cable out of the computer.
Yeah.
Complains about how sweaty they've become. Oh, I feel sick. This is Lynchian. I think I may have been too quick to write this one off.
Well, I guess you're just going to stick that brass ball in that trombone, see what happens. Good. Marvellous.
What have you been playing?
Well, I've been playing. So I've been playing, I've just started playing, Phoenix Point. Which I'm happy to talk about, I'd like to talk about, but I do need to do so with some caveats because, I'm quite friendly with the development team now because we've met a few times. I know that, Julian, Gollop and, David Kay, who is the co-founder of Snapshot Games, both listen to the podcast from time to time. And it was David who gave me a key for his game because, you know, that's what you do when your mates have got a game out. So I'm going to talk about it with those caveats. I just want to put that all up front because, I like it. I've played maybe 3 or 4 hours so far and I haven't had any bad experiences with it. So, my take is going to be positive. But I just wanted to put that out in front in my due diligence that,
Smell the stench of corruption.
Well, I suppose this will happen more and more as more of us just are in game development and play games that other developers have made whom you have talks about shop with throughout the year. So anyway, Phoenix Point is, the sort of, game by, Julian Gollop, Snapshot Games, man whom done a big XCOM once upon a time, and now do it again. So it feels very much like I don't think it by no means seems to have any kind of antagonistic relationship with Firaxis XCOM. In fact, I think it borrows a sensible amount of Firaxis XCOM's UI ideas, sort of shorthand, you know, not keyboard shortcuts themselves, but like ease of use, basically. And applies this to a game which is, I think, on the surface a little bit closer to old school XCOM, but I don't think that wouldn't be sufficient as a summary. Because there's a few different ways where it adds depth and I'm really enjoying it so far. So, the high concept is this. You take control of an organization called Phoenix, which is a sort of, I guess, like paramilitary science, you know, patrol, like a kind of, imagine like a grimdark Thunderbirds, sort of setup.
Should we be worried about them? Because I don't think I'd support them if they're in real life.
Well, I think they are, so they were founded during the Cold War and then shut down. This is all in the opening cutscene. Shut down for reasons, I don't know, but they're back because now it's time for the Crab War. It is
just one last job, boys.
Exactly. There is only, in the Grim Darkness of the Far Future, there's only Crab War. And
are these aliens?
Well, that's the thing.
Or is that a thing?
It feels like it's actually, so when I say Crab War, I really do mean it. I think they embrace it as well. It's easy to lightly make fun of it because crab's a fundamentally funny word. The opening has like newsreels saying like, the crabs have become very territorial. And then there's a sort of lightly Lovecraftian element of like populations of people, this mist rolling in off this like essentially short version, ice caps melt because global warming, bad. This released some kind of thing style pathogen, which takes the form of like a sea mist that rolls in over coastal areas. People go mad and start walking into the ocean. They come back as crab beasts, mutant gun-toting crab men and their legions. Humanity, mostly dead now, retreats into sanctuaries and forms these sort of monolithic factions. There's like a kind of, sort of militant sort of, military hierarchy sort of faction. There's a, no hierarchies sort of, highly liberal sort of utopian faction doing their best. And there's the, as far as I can tell, sea creatures are good actually, let's all turn into squid men, faction. And there's a mixture of things. I think, XCOM, I don't want to keep drawing back to XCOM because obviously it has its own art direction and its own sort of sense of what it is. It's telling that XCOM has always drawn threats from both the sea and space. And this is the ocean side of that. And that is a big part of Lovecraftian horror. Like those two things have a relationship. Like the stars reflected in the night ocean is repeated motif, and the notion that the unknown can just as likely come out of the depths is fully Lovecraftian. And I think this leans into it a bit further than some actually, in the sort of people entering trances and walking into the ocean, coming back as crabmen. One of the little enemy icons, which is something that it has in common with Firaxis XCOM, where you can see who's in range of who by a little row of icons above a soldier's profile, is a full-on Innsmouthian fishman-looking motherfucker. Like, it's going to that place. But there's a few different things going on. I don't want to bang on about the whole thing, because as I say, I've played like 4 hours, so I can't give you the take on how a campaign plays out, but I played a couple of different
choosing your faction? Is that...
No, so here's, I'll start with that then. So you have the Geoscape map.
Is it round?
It is round.
Nice.
Big and round. Big brown hologram, but orange. So that's different. But it works really differently. So, it's much more granular. You have your base, and, initially a aircraft basically that you can stuff with soldiers, and soldiers can be resident in your base or on the aircraft. And you can, set off a scan at whatever location that the aircraft is currently at. And this causes like a sort of expanding scan radius to bloom out of this place. Initially, I can only do one at a time. I think eventually you can set up multiple scans. And as it moves across the landscape, you press unpause time and things progress, including your research and base building and construction, recruitment, all this stuff. It will uncover little points of interest on the map. So instead of, it's not live events do happen, but if you think about the XCOM rhythm as press play on the geomap until a situation happens, then respond to it. Mm-hmm. This is not like that.
Which was actually that was a riff on the original UFOs design as well.
Yes, right. This is very different. You're actively exploring, because you start with the base and you don't know anything is nearby, and you find these nodes, and you can direct your plane to fly to those nodes. And obviously, as it's moving, time is progressing.
Are you all in a plane? Like you've got a moving base? Is that?
No. The base is its own thing, and you can choose to leave people in the base or put them in the plane. Okay. You need at least one person in the plane to do things.
To fly it.
Yeah, you get to these nodes, and you explore them. That takes a certain amount of time, and that could result in something. So that could result in finding. It could just be a text-based thing where you make a choice. It could be a mission. The sort of standard mission type, at least as far as I've played, is you found some supplies, but they're scattered around this environment. You go into a mission where the enemies will actively try and destroy the supplies, and whatever you can defend while also killing every enemy is what you get. So really simple, straightforward strategy sandbox. Works perfectly well as a way to teach you the mechanics, and as a sort of standard way of forming a mission. But you may also find towns or strongholds that belong to one of these other factions. There are 3 other factions. I think when you first encounter them, there are missions associated with that, so you go into and solve a problem for them. And this can be where you recruit. It can be where you trade for different resources for goods, because there's more going on. You have food, like your soldiers consume food over time, and if you aren't producing it yourself, you need to have a supply of it. Building materials and construction stuff. Factions also research things on their own, and they will get research options you don't have. And so if you're friends with them, you can get that from them or buy that from them. But you also have the option to raid them at a huge cost to your reputation with them. So if you're starving, you can go and do a combat mission against this human faction to nick their stuff. So that's quite a lot more granular. And it's good mileage because it gets a whole other enemy faction out of the other humans.
And self-driven sort of, kind of, it sounds like, where XCOM was like a board game, this is like an RPG, sort of,
Weirdly though, I think the board game thing comes up quite strongly to me.
Right.
It's more complicated than a board game because it's a digital thing and they can afford to have more things that would be a pain to track, honestly. But it gave me big Pandemic Legacy vibes. So the other thing is the alien threat in this, or the threat isn't, going to randomly land somewhere on Earth as it does in XCOM, right? Like this city happens to be under attack. There's like a kind of the mist that rolls in off the sea and comes inland. And if it comes over a node you plan to visit, if you go and try and do a mission there, it's going to be much harder because it's in enemy territory and it's repelled by these settlements. So, they form a bubble basically where it's not going to go as far as I can tell, or not easily.
Because it got fans and stuff.
Yeah, they've got big fans. But obviously if those settlements start to struggle, then they don't act as a bulwark against it in quite the same way. And they can come under attack, in which case you have the option, like the thing I'm currently doing before I left to come out to do this podcast is racing to try and defend one of them, which will in turn earn you reputation or whatever. And that seemed like the equivalent of those sort of crisis moments in XCOM, but it wasn't my base getting sieged. It was a nearby settlement, which is making it easier for me to do my thing, which I quite like as a mechanic because it means that where the monsters are is completely consistent. It's near the sea, but sort of figuring out how you're going to deal with that is an interesting thing, I think. And you can set up other bases for yourself. I'm trying to find the second one now. I get the impression I'm still on sort of the early tutorial land. I've done like 3 story missions and maybe 5 or 6 other kind of encounters. And there are some interesting sort of systems. There's a lot of systems and I'm still figuring all of them out. But there's a lot of stuff going on. So your, soldiers have stamina. And as far as I can tell, they all have 40 stamina points. Every turn you take in a mission costs 1 stamina for everybody in your team. And, also certain like out of game scenarios, like if you have a text thing, which is like you find some dead people, you choose to bury them, which gets you some reputation with a nearby town, but it costs your whole squad 10 stamina, which means that 10 is taken from the group's total. So, maybe everyone loses 1 and 2 people lose 2 if you've got 8 people or whatever it is. All that stuff happens. And when stamina gets too low, your soldiers begin missions with fewer action points because they're knackered. And that is recovered by taking them back to base because you don't automatically return to base after a mission.
I think because they're still on the bus.
They're still on the plane.
Yeah.
So you go out and unlike I appreciate, I'm going to use the word XCOM a lot, but it's impossible to avoid, like particularly because it's going to be people's touchdowns for this. Unlike the sort of out and back again rhythm, you go out and then you do what feels like an expedition, go around, and because you set off your scan on a particular node and it will radiate from that point, you can race the edge of it.
Sort of adjacency things.
And so you might be doing a mission and then as you're doing that mission, the scan will pick something nearby and you decide, I'll just go there. Like the perfect example of this is this attack on this nearby town has happened just as I have actually decided to come home, which is in a way convenient because it's on my way back. But I'm decided to come back because a bunch of my, guys took some bad hits in the last mission and it's getting a bit sketchy. So now I'm, doing the thing of, flying into the scary mission, maybe slightly under prepared. But that's the heart of these campaign games as far as I'm concerned. And what's interesting about that is, that feels immediately a little bit more, tactile than, or no, it's not tactile, fair actually, than both tactile and fair because I'm involved, and basically I'm actively involved in it, than it is when
it's like a terror mission that
you've got to go, or your base is under attack and you have to do it.
Yeah.
Because it's like, this for me is like, I do want to defend this town and it is on my way, but I'm going to do it, but I have the choice not to. And maybe there will be things where it's like, you got to do this now or you're effed. And I am playing it with that mindset of, I would like to, with any I mean, I love these games, but it takes me it'll take me a couple of campaigns to really know what its rhythms are. And what I haven't done yet, with all of these, with every XCOM, both of the Firaxis XCOM games have points in them, particularly if you're playing, I'm playing on normal difficulty, so, it's not necessarily been too taxing so far. But, both of the Firaxis games have a point quite early on where you're either going to start snowballing or you're effed, particularly in like an Iron Man playthrough. And I haven't hit that yet, but I know I'm waiting for it. Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting if it doesn't show up and I get through the whole campaign still worried that it's about to happen, then that will be a success. But that hasn't necessarily, the jury is fully out on that one. Like I might be, I literally saved and quit right as I was about to do this mission. So I might load it up, everyone dies, and I'm like, oh, I actually should have done 15 different things differently. And I've already, this first 3 hours was the learning 3 hours where you learn, you don't just randomly fly around doing stuff. You have to keep certain people fresh or, whatever. We'll see. So that's there's obviously going to be loads more to that. And I think it's going to take, it might revisit it on a future pod, maybe in the new year, when I've had some more time with it. But I do also want to talk about the actual strategy game as well, like the tactics, the
tactics,
squad tactics level.
Tactics, yeah.
I'm just eating my words a little bit. Cause it does some things that I think are really neat. So I think some of this might be familiar to people because I know had an early access presence for a while, I believe. I think it was a Kickstarted game, so backers have had it for a certain amount of time. I believe so. Okay. And I played it at a couple of successive EGXs. Yeah. But I deliberately sort of didn't play it before it was done because I tend not to. But I kind of knew what the vibe was but it's actually playing it has, feels almost quite different to the game I played at those shows. It feels a better showcase of its core ideas, basically, which is, it has, the same sort of spending action points, running, taking cover, setting up Overwatch, those sorts of. So
the difference here, because like obviously XCOM is your 2 action model. And this seems to go back to UFO where each character has, is it the same amount or a differing number of kind of
at the
action
moment,
points?
everyone, so there are two things. This is kind of interesting. I'm still, again, this is going to be basic takes time, but so every character I have has 4 action points.
Right.
And that affects movement distance, but different weapons cost different amounts to fire. So that's that's thing 1. Everyone also has a resource called willpower, which is both morale and energy. So if they run out of it, they break, they panic, that triggers that kind of, panic state, where you can't control them anymore. But you can also spend it. So it's not just something that gets taken away as a penalty. You can also spend it. So a lot of my like assault class kind of assault rifle soldiers at the moment all have unlocked the ability to do a pretty big move, for no action points, but at the cost of 4 willpower. And on average, they each have like 10 to 12 willpower points. So it's like a third of their bar to exchange it for a really big move. And actually it feels quite overpowered at first because you can move a really long way. And then, cause they're like an assault class, they can actually then either shoot twice or move and shoot. So you can actually get like, and the maps aren't massive, like at all. So you can actually get like all the way across the map doing this. And it feels quite kind of liberating. Then there's a variant of this, like I have a guy with a jetpack the jetpack costs a bit of willpower and some action points. So that's a trade-off in that direction.
Sounds like you're quite mobile then.
You are very, well. Yeah, it feels like having your morale effectively be a resource you can spend is a way of giving you the ability to overpower yourself at a meaningful cost. Like I haven't had a failure yet really, but it can hypothetically create a kind of cascading fail state where you overextend somebody and that's the wrong, there isn't an undo as far as I can tell. So if you
because you're presumably like fog of war.
Yeah. If you dash into the fog of war and it's the wrong thing to do, not only are you probably miles out of position, but you're also more likely to break because you've spent some of your willpower to get there. So there's all that. Then there's 2 other things that are both related to each other. One is, maybe 3. So one is that, in addition to, so enemies and everyone is sort of modular, made of limbs. Your people are made of arms, legs, heads, and even weapons are all distinct objects, parts of the body that can break individually. And this is the reason why crabs, nature's mech, many different attachments in the real world, mostly claws and legs, But imagine the possibilities were that not the case. So sometime, and I think, so I remember reading about this being more modular than it seems to be, but that might be an earlier kind of campaign thing.
Yeah, like you're going against just claws.
Yeah, so at the moment, the sort of example enemies are like Crabman with shield, and he might be shield and gun, or shield and...
Is that like a shield to the front, so you're
Well, he takes shielding as an action, so he like puts a shield in front of him, and then if you can flank or whatever, you can try and break it, or you can break the shield or whatever. Shield and gun, shield and melee weapon. There's these like, the Gribbly Innsmouth looking dudes. They have a thing where they can I think they can have ranged weapons or melee weapons as well, but they have a thing where after they take damage, they instinctively go invisible and flee. So if you kill them in one shot, you can pin them down. If not, you lose them, which is a really nice kind of mechanic. I'm trying to think of other enemies. There are little gribbly exploding worms that race at you that people with heavy weapons struggle to hit, which is kind of neat because it gives pistols a thing to do.
That's good. That's good.
It's because like I had my big guy with a huge like double-handed like a rail gun just couldn't hit them for shit, which kind of feels right. There's a bunch of other enemies as well. A cool example of why modularity is cool actually is, there's like I can't remember what it's called. In fact, I wrote it down. What did I write? I can't read this. It looks like mind fusser.
Fussing around with your mind.
You're fussing my mind, man. I wrote this because I liked the mechanic, but I can't read my own writing without it sounding very rude. So mind fussers, are like little, like sort of polyp sort of squiggly things that leap onto a soldier's face and mind control them.
Right.
Which, I mean, obviously XCOM has the...
are they
then fight the enemies,
or
right.
do they run around the level, or do they drop off bits of building on you?
No, they run around.
Right.
And this is neat, because obviously, it's fundamentally the same mechanic as XCOM to an extent. Like sectoids can mind control one of your dudes, and you have to shoot the sectoid to free the dude. In this though, the little alien is literally stuck to his face.
Just to shoot you.
So you have to shoot the face, cause you can aim for very specific things. And, your soldiers can't shoot through each other. So if you don't plan a shot properly, it will just hit someone on your team in the back. Or if it goes wide, it hits what it hits, basically. So you can shoot your own team really easily. So, sniping an alien off someone's face is
risky business.
Thing. It's risky thing to do.
What are the shooting mechanics like? Are you dealing
I'm glad you asked. We always finish the question.
That's it. I finished it, but I thought I'd just add a few words on the end, which are unnecessary.
So you can choose to just sort of auto fire at the enemy, which will fire at the part I think that you have the highest chance of hitting. But one of the things that feels a little janky so far, I'm getting used to is the way it expresses your likelihood to hit. Cause as far as I know, it's real ballistics. It's not like just a dice roll. Like you can, cause you can aim for specific body parts, you can easily aim for the head, but hit the leg. You know what I mean? It's not like you fail what's your phone doing?
It was trying to call my daughter.
You've bum dialed your daughter while talking about crabs. So if like the bullet misses, it will still hit something. It's not just like a dice roll and you didn't hit the head, so you didn't hit, that kind of thing. But while you're mousing over what you want to try and hit, it will give you like a white bar that will become, more white or less opaque, basically, less transparent, the more likely that shot is to hit, and turn into, I think, white chevrons of if it's going to hit, if it's guaranteed to hit. And however much of the enemy's health bar the white bar covers is how much damage it's going to do.
Okay.
So if you aim and it's white chevrons covering the entire health bar, you know you're going to kill them. Otherwise it's these sort of like, it can be so you have the choice of doing the shot, or you can enter essentially an over-the-shoulder third-person camera when you have a targeting reticule. It's not like Fallout VATS style pick the limb. It's a cursor, and you click exactly where you want the shot to go.
And it goes exactly there, or is there deviance?
There is deviance, and that's what the white bar is trying to represent.
Yeah.
What's neat is the environment's fully destructible. With obviously like logical properties. So like big, thick, reinforced concrete wall, not destructible very easily. Most things are, to the extent that you can knock like a panel out of a wooden wall, like as far as I can tell, and that creates a hole you can shoot through. And so you might not be able to target an enemy, but if you know they're on the other side of a wall, you're still allowed to shoot that wall. You just pick shoot. It won't have anything to shoot at. You click, it gives you the targeting cursor and you just click. And then there's no percentage chance of anything. It's just fire whatever gun I'm holding at this point of the level and it will do a thing. So I found it very satisfying to, if I was struggling to find a use for my heavy weapon guy with his big railgun in a particular mission because everyone's kind of wibbling around and being in cover, he's just knocking down walls.
Down the walls, yeah.
Yeah, like
that's a very UFO thing to do as well.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's a good point actually. I think because of the fidelity of this, it doesn't quite feel like that. It feels less digital than that. Yeah. Obviously it's a digital game, but you know what I mean? It feels less binary than just wall is there, wall isn't. There's a lot of kind of destruction that takes place.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, I mean, I have used grenades far more for creating sightlines than anything else, which is cool.
Yeah.
Are you bum dialing someone else now?
I already quit that. I don't understand why it keeps going off.
Too many bum dials. The final thing is that I would mention, I think then I'm done with my monologue.
Actually, I was going to ask you about about that way of representing your accuracy. Like there's still percentages going on in the logic.
Yeah.
But does it feel more sort of fair to you? I've been thinking a lot about, randomness in games, lately. And, I watched a talk that weirdly enough, I remember being at GDC in 2010 or something with, Sid Meier talking about Civilization Revolution, where he was talking about, testers' responses to the percentage chance of failure or success and like basically people assume that when it says 90%,
it's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
Not that it's a 1% chance,
but it's actually surprisingly, low. The percentage goes before people stop feeling sort of diddled out something. Does that graphic way of representing it alleviate that?
So I'm not sure because I think it has like the over shoulder cam for shooting. So what's interesting about it is that's kind of an interesting question because what it does is it takes you out of thinking about the precise odds. I think about odds in games a lot because I play a lot of dice games, whether it's Warhammer or other things. Yeah. And I think the thing you're discussing is related to a broader topic, which is humans have a really weird relationship with dice and a really weird relationship with chance. Right? Like it's borderline superstitious. It's very emotional. It's very emotionally led. There's a rigid logic to it, but everyone in the world has a gambling streak that they will take. But you can only gamble if you know the numbers involved, really. Well, that's not true in a strict logical sense, but in a sort of, I think that gambling, that sort of thrill of gambling requires to some extent having a sense of what the odds of something happening are, knowing the reasons why it might or might not happen, and then going for it. Whether that's this person may or may not have this card, but if they don't, then I've won, or I'm going to, I just need to roll a 6 on these 4 dice to win the game, and I'm going to, even though that's not guaranteed, and it never is, I'm going to take that chance because I'm feeling lucky, right? Whatever it is. One thing this doesn't do, is make it very clear why someone's missed a shot or something like that, or give you a huge sense of why the circumstances that they are in make it more or less likely for them to hit. You can intuit it sometimes, but, I found myself, maybe this is partly because the enemies are so strange and kind of gribbly, I found myself not necessarily able to tell, this might also be a learning thing, why something is like, this is a sure shot, this isn't. I just see that it is and I go for it. And so there's a sense of not being aware of the underlying maths, and that might come, and therefore, I don't know if I'll fully commit to that. I'm feeling like talking around the point a little bit. So I think it helps to an extent, because you're not told this is a sure thing and it doesn't happen. However, it would be nice if it was clear about, even if it's not showing you the maths of the dice roll happening behind the scenes, it would be nice to have more information about the ballistics involved. Like, even if it was like feedback in terms of, oh, that shot missed because it hit an object between me and them, or that shot missed because it went wide because it's too far away. Because it wants you to think about that. So one interesting mechanic is its Overwatch system, which works similarly to Overwatch and other games where, if an enemy moves into line of sight, then the soldier returns fire. But, it's not, you don't put someone on Overwatch and then if they see anyone, you put someone on Overwatch and pick not only a cone for them to watch, but how long that cone is. And that's not, I think if you were designing this game with pure user friendliness in mind, you'd be rotating the cone around the character and the cone's length would be set to the optimal range for the weapon they're carrying. So sniper, big long cone. Assault weapon, medium cone. It's not that. You can pick someone with an assault rifle and set a massive cone that goes all the way to the back of the level, which means that if an enemy runs past miles away, they will take that shot and they will miss.
But it would be incredibly low odds.
Yeah. And so there's a skill in gauging where you need to draw the line. And so, I've had these moments where an enemy has cautiously advanced right to the edge of where my Overwatch cone is and stopped. And I've realized, would I be better to have pushed it back? They can't see my Overwatch cone, but would I be better to have pushed it back? Is that the AI being smart because it knows what the optimal range of my weapons is? Or, if I did push it back, is that just going to waste ammo on a shot that isn't going to do anything? So that's kind of neat because it wants you to think in quite an analog way about how far away is this? Like you can probably put a sniper in a good position. You can probably put them, put their Overwatch cone as far back as you like, and there's probably some value in that.
Feels like there's quite a lot of kind of, human intuition going on in this one. So there's the manual aim and,
destroying walls.
Destroying walls. There's lots of sort of fuzzy humanity going on.
Yeah. So the most recent mission I played is a good example of that. I was ambushed. First time I had an ambush scenario where you start in the middle of the map and the enemy spawning from every side. And I still think it's taking it easy on me at the moment, but you have to survive 3 turns and get to the evac zone, basically, with every survivor. And this is my misunderstanding. I thought I just had to survive 3 turns, so I sort of held up in the middle of the map for 3 turns, and then realized, I've got to leave. And so I had to scan around.
There's lots of crabmen out there.
Yeah. But my approach to leaving was this sort of like staged retreat, coming back in waves. But the thing that I managed to do that was cool is I had 2, I think reasonably lucky shots. But I have 2 snipers and they both managed to shoot the guns that the crabmen at the front were carrying and destroy them. Because you can damage gear, which gives it a chance to fail. You can also destroy gear, which meant that the front line of crabmen, who were basically at their own extreme range, suddenly didn't have ranged weapons anymore. So rather than, so it completely changed the dynamic of the fight because they then had to try and get closer to me rather than, hang back and shoot, move forward and shoot every turn as I move backwards and shoot, which meant that I could sort of I kept retreating, taking pot shots at the last group that still had ranged weapons, but then realized I can actually outpace them because they're too far behind, and I've managed to render the 2 guys that are closest to me useless without having to kill them with just, strategic sniper fire. I can leave now. There's no need for me to keep fighting this. And that felt really cool because it felt like quite an analog solution to that problem, which was, it's quite wargame-ish actually in a way where it's actually this sort of little quirk of chance in this game has meant that if I play the objective, this is now unwinnable for my opponent because this key asset has been lost. They don't really have units and I'm still outnumbered, but the soft probability of this has shifted massively in my favor.
Yeah.
They don't have the right units in the right place anymore because I've turned their ranged units into one-armed melee units, which is a cool thing to happen. I don't think can happen in many other games like this that I'm aware of.
I can't think of, yeah.
So far really enjoying it. I have had one, it feels like, and this is going to be, I guarantee it, some kind of middleware issue. It felt like it almost fell over completely on the campaign screen when a cutscene tried to play. So there's a little bit of a wobble, a bit of sort of strange sort of, oh, are you going to crash really badly now feeling? But I waited and it came back. And I wonder if it was almost the duration of some video that wasn't playing. I can't get out QA brain sometimes, but it was like, you've obviously tried to play a cutscene and it hasn't happened and I'm just sort of frozen for 90 seconds. The only reason I mentioned that partly is generally for the most part, it feels quite polished, but that was a standout, moment. The one reason I mention it is it was one of those things where I was really close to Control-Alt deleting the game, to get around it, and then it came back and I would have lost some progress, I think, if I had done that. So if you were playing it and you get what looks like particularly after a little moment, you click OK and suddenly it's maybe give it a minute.
Give it a chance.
But yeah, I'm certainly return to it.
I'm keen to play.
Yeah. It's Epic Store only at the moment, but I believe it's coming to Steam next year. So yeah. But yeah. So good job, guys. I like your Crabs game.
Well done, everybody.
Well done, everybody. I think we've managed, thinking about the games that are coming up on this podcast, I think we're going to go 3 for 3 in this week's YouTube thumbnail of pictures of, people in helmets fighting a Gribble Man.
Because I'm going to be talking about, next about, the adventures of Not John Halo in the Reach.
Halo
Reach.
My favorite Halo game, I believe.
Yes. Yeah. So this is the remake, came out last week. It is, it's a, like, you know, we started the chat with, Resident Evil 2, which was and Resident Evil 3, I should say, which is a remake. This is like a buffed up remake, but like it looks fucking good still. Like, the texture work and just the design of that game, the artwork of that game was always good. And it happens like putting it up to 1080p or whatever makes it look better. And, you know, and playing it at sort of smooth frame rates is also nice. Played it on my 360 back in the day. It is a good Halo. It's a really good Halo, but I haven't played Halo for a long, long time now. And Halo feels weird, man.
Does it?
It feels, and I think it's because Destiny feels like such a, relation to it, or like an ancestor, you'd probably call it. Or not an ancestor, what's the other way? Like a descendant of it. So that all of, you know, you can feel in the speed at which you move and lots of things about it. Lots of ways about the feel of the weapons, which is sort of similar, and yet I was really surprised by how old it felt, how old it felt, how, not janky, but ganky. Clunky?
Would you commit to clunky?
So one of the things, one of the things about it is like, so I actually, I started using, the, standard kind of control layout, which is the old, Halo layout, which used to be burned into my mind, and I was good at it, and I felt weird to go into, you know, Call of Duty style kind of things, really weird. So that is, you've got melee on R1, like, or, you know, that bumper. You've got, you've got no sprint, although in Reach you do have a sprint, but it's a special ability you can swap in and out. That's on some weird place. The zoom is on the clicky button on the left stick, I think.
It's on the right stick.
Right stick, maybe? Yeah, right stick. Couldn't get on with that at all. Not now.
Left L1 is grenade?
Yes, I think so, yeah. Couldn't get on with that. Really weird. In the settings, you can switch it to very modern, like Call of Duty style, modern, normal settings. But the zoom, you can zoom all the weapons, but only a few of them are fireable. Like that.
Sometimes it just telescope.
It's just a telescope now. So that's weird. The other thing is that if you get shot, because this is the game that has the DMR in it, which is like this sort of, sort of long range rifle, not a sniper rifle, but like, you know, battle rifle plus sort of single shot thing.
Yeah.
And that is, you just feel like my modern mind wants to zoom that in all the time because it's the scout rifle in Destiny. And, if you get shot, and you can fire in zoom in Halo Reach, but if you get shot, you get flung back out to your normal view. So you have to press the button again. And I've got it so when you hold down the button, like as you do in Mom Thing, you zoom in. So now you've still got your button held down, the button held down to zoom, but you're not in zoom anymore. Little things like this, which is it's a crash between modern convention and a game that was never designed for that. You know, it was meant to be a click in that you know, it's
Don't
really
use very often as well because it's,
it's, another thing that's really funny, it's odd about it, is that, you know, people take the piss out of Destiny for having bullet sponge enemies. fucking, you go play Halo again. Good God. The number of bullets you pile into kind of the elites, which are the kind of like the main Gribblies, like the big Gribblies with a shield. Good Lord, you've put so many bullets into them. You can pretty much empty a DMR into one and, you know, you're going to drop it if you get, you know, if you don't get many headshots once the shield's down, it's probably going to take most of a clip. And like, that's a lot of shots. That's a lot of firing. That's actually a big proportion of, all the ammunition that you'll have for that pickup of that weapon. So you're probably going to be picking, you know.
Pick up their weapon.
Yeah. You know, this is a game that wants to swap weapons all the time. Which was always a strength of that game. I used to like it because all the weapons had strengths about them. All of them had interesting, fun things about them. It was a good sandbox in that way. But, again, coming from Destiny where you're stuck to your favorite 3 weapons, you know, it's, no, I want to go back to the DMR. You know, I want to go scout rifle.
That's interesting because
it's really fighting against my Destiny, instincts all the time. And the bullet sponginess is, and I don't know whether this is to do with the fact that it is a game designed for 30 frames a second, but I don't remember it feeling this unresponsive to getting, you know, shooting stuff. Like when you kill something easy, like they will go sprawling, like the ragdolling is good, but there isn't the Destiny style. There's something about Destiny's hit responses and the general feedback, which is just so much more
yellow
powerful.
Numbers.
It can't be just the numbers, Chris. I can't accept that.
Yellow numbers. You see yellow number, your brain says hello.
Good.
Yes, good. I'm
Yellow
good. I'm good. I'm a good boy.
I'm good.
Thank you, Bungie. Pat me.
This is fascinating. Oh, it's just so fascinating. But the set pieces are fucking great. Like, it's such a good game.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's funny. Maybe I should play it because I loved those games. And I remember them very fondly, and I did the legendary runs on all of them, which is...
I think they're hard, like you are.
Hard.
I'm playing on Heroic, and which was the game, it was the way I always used to play them.
Heroic's good.
I cannot play like I do in Destiny. In Destiny, you're like a fucking walking god compared to Not John.
Yeah, Custom John.
Yeah, you're...
That's the thing, right?
But that was part of the theme to that game. You were meant to be like a sub-Spartan, like the not so good Spartan. I remember all this because now I'm remembering also, I have a long history with this game because I went to see it on its very first reveal. So I went to visit Bungie, in that first phalanx of journalists, who were invited. So I was the UK one, and it meant that I wrote about that game fucking 5 times for all of the future magazines in 2000 and whatever it was, 11? No, 9. 2009. And, so I remember all the stuff about it. So
10 years ago.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And I remember, sort of going to Reach, and I remember them talking about the fact that, it was a game that's about loss, and it's sort of setting it up because this is the headset at the very start of the Halo story with this mysterious alien force, the Covenant, appearing and just annihilating this planet that you were on, called Reach. And this is like an outpost planet, and there's already, a revolution threatening to kick off on it, which is why you're there. The military is there. And you're the kind of not so good Spartans. So you're a bit more human than old John Spartans. And you're in the squad. And by this point, Bungie had decided to be a lot more cinematic and a lot more, let's do a story and put humans into it. And, the dialogue.
Does it not hold up?
Some of the dialogue is actually quite nice. Like it plays around with the conventions of the military squad because by this point, by the time it came out, obviously Quad was ascendant and so it feels a little bit like Bungie really needed to do its military shooter.
Yeah.
But it has a bit more heart to it. Like there's a bit more fun and a bit more heart that goes into the characters. But the voice work is so bad. Is like the guy who plays George, who's the big guy with the big mini.
I remember him.
Thing.
He's the one I remember the most. Yeah.
I have a great soft spot for him. He's lovely, but his voice actor has a great tone of voice. not a good reading of words voice. Well, it's a good voice, but not a good
I
reading of
remember
words
it as sort of like characterful noises. I can't remember a single word he says.
No, I can't either. He just sort of, because he's very good at kind of having them grunting while they're in battle and making comments when they're in battle, and like he's kind of grunting away. Yeah, no, it's so like, but the grandeur of the place, and they were talking when I was doing on the visit, like, oh, this is like something that, as a journalist, you hear like probably every other fucking studio. Yeah, Reach is very much the main character of the game. But actually, to be fair, it really is. Like, it's a fucking, this is Mega Hebrides. It's like really fucking like a, sort of rugged, and like the people there are kind of, you just get the sense of a people, that kind of live on the edge of the known kind of human kind of universe.
I think Titanfall 2 owes it some...
Yeah, that's true, actually, yeah.
Owes it some cred from across time.
And so
it's like frontier planet kind of vibe.
Yeah. So that feels awesome. Yeah, the set pieces are great. Like, I played a level just before coming out here, which I remember fondly from the time, which was, so there's, so you're on Reach the planet, and it's under attack by all these capital ships. Capitalist ships. Goddamn gammons.
No politics, Alex.
The gammons are coming. And, they, and you jet up, and I remember being surprised about it at the time when I first played it. Like, you jet up in a spaceship and you do some space shooting, which isn't that good, but it's, it's fun. It's good. It's fine. And you then land on, this, capitalist ship, and you have a fight. And, one of the final bits in that section is this big round room, and the Covenant enemies are in the middle of the room, all behind shields and things. There are quite a few, elites. There are lots of the little gribblers, and you're just dodging, moving in and out. It's the most dynamic kind of fight because you're constantly, under assault from multiple directions. And like that is Halo. Like, that is you are constantly moving. You're constantly trying to they're trying to flank you. It feels like a live environment. Like, and that is something it has over Destiny. Like, Destiny always has stuff in front of you, even when you're in the open areas. Like, instinctively in your open areas that enemies are clustered in areas. And it's rare that you're ever getting shot at from the back, when you're encountering something from the front, unless you pushed too far. It's usually your fault, basically. Yeah. It's a choice you've made, or it's inexperience speaking. Like, and mostly you're on these kind of linear paths, down into dungeons where you're clearing the way. Like, there's nothing coming from the back. You do get those kind of arena parts, but they have
a different relationship with things in Destiny. I think it's good, but it's a very different cadence. Like, Halo, the joy of Halo, and I think it's a crime that other games haven't imitated this format. Cause, COD is also pushed forward to the checkpoint, right? The great thing about Halo has always been being dropped into a space with all of the tools you're going to get to solve the gun puzzle.
Yeah.
Like, you are not going to be able to have one gun through the whole thing. You're going to run out of ammo for it. Your human weapons, depends on the exact makeup of the fight. And then I love this kind of design. They have all of these different elements they can throw in to make arenas feel different. So if this arena has, friendly human AI soldiers fighting in it, not only does that add a dynamic, they're going to die and they're going to drop human weapons. So if you do want another DMR, you might go find one over there.
Yeah.
But if if it's a very alien environment, then you're going to be using alien guns for the second half of that fight when your ammo stocks are down. And that's it. You solve the puzzle. And all you need to know is I just need to get to the end of this. I think it's maybe underrated as one of the only single player first person shooters to solve the I'm going to hold all my grenades forever issue.
Yeah.
Right. Or I will never fire my rocket because I'll never get another one problem that Doom and Quake have. It solves it because it's like, no, I just need to get to this fight, and I trust the way the game is designed that then the fight after this will A, be different, and B, will have its own set of tools for me.
Yeah.
And that's why it's great. That's why they're I think, really up there for me. Like there are different ways to structure a shooter, and I think I can't decide if that is the Half-Life method is every level is its own game, and you are going to use these tools in this environment, to explore this, thing, and then you'll get to the end of it and you'll encounter something completely different. Halo is not that, because it's the same elements returning constantly as part of this recycling set. But I love the Halo thing, and I think it's only really a history of, to some extent, kind of PC-centric snobbery that hasn't had those two games more favorably compared.
That's true.
As ways of structuring an FPS. Like, they're the two pinnacles of it, as far as I'm concerned. That's a bit of a ramble. The point is, Destiny is really interesting because Destiny takes that, I'm going to go solve a gun problem with my space bombs thing, and it executes it on the macro scale. And everything Destiny does is about making you make those decisions on the macro scale. So, and different levels of the macro scale. So from, I need this loadout for this encounter, because I understand these aspects of the design, to I am going to set this, my current objectives are encouraging me to use these weapons, or to use weapons like this, but the requirements are, it's given me stipulation Z, and I'm trying to achieve objective X, so I'm going to do thing Y that merges these two. This is my interpretation of the midpoint between these two sets of urges. Then the step beyond that is I need to do those extra stipulations because I'm trying to earn this particular weapon that will change the sandbox in this other area where I'm trying to achieve goal Q.
Yeah.
And that big macro scale kind of incentivization is what makes it really compelling.
Yeah.
But I agree that it loses the moment to moment sort of chance and luck and kind of drama of Halo of like, I've misplanned this and I've only got a needle gun and it's not what I want right now, but I'm going to try and make it work.
Yeah, no, you kind of MacGyver, like you can't, in Destiny you can kind of, you can have kind of thrilling escapes, but you don't MacGyver, you don't kind of like hook or by crook.
I was about to mention something interesting, but let's finish talking about Reach before I get onto that.
Yeah, no, so just the other thing, like I think, I mean, the difference between those, between Destiny and Halo is that Halo is a story, and so it doesn't need to have these kind of macro systems going on because like you're there for a story, you don't have to pay attention to it, but like it leads to some amazing scenes, like, and a real sense of pace and things, so midway in this battle on this spaceship, you watch as this your own side's capital ship is destroyed, and which means that you've kind of failed in your mission, and that it somehow works despite it being, you're on the kind of like the ghost train, like there's nothing you could have done about it. Like, obviously
it is. It's also one of the great, I don't want to spoil it because people will be playing it for the first time, but I think one of the great endings as well.
Yeah, it is good. It is good. And then there's just the incidental kind of AI stuff. Like, obviously in Destiny, there is no AI other than kind of because the other players are your AI. And this one, you've got this sense of kind of getting in your Warthog and going on a ride with your AI friends. And like you go toot your horn and they come running towards them. So you zoom off a little bit and then they run after you. You stop and then they run after you. And you just play around with them. And then you go off on a little jaunt, shoot some gribbers and they're all with you. And then one of them dies.
You do a flip by accident.
You do a flip. It lands on their head and you think, fuck, what have I done? It's so good. It's like, it's really fun. Like, that AI is still, it's goofy and it sort of sometimes doesn't behave, but it's a lot of fun to be around.
Like a.
I was going to think,
like a dog.
Like, who is this? Like a dog.
Well, the abiding theory being that all the player characters in Destiny are all dogs because they're obsessed with balls of various kinds and will chase and do and sit on anything. Then the AI in Halo is the dog. Can you pet the dog in Halo? Yes. They're all the dog. And you pet them with gun-based space camaraderie. Yeah.
That's, and like there have been some complaints about technical stuff on it. I haven't really experienced them. It is good. And it's really nicely put together as well. So it has a new front end, so you don't download Reach so much. Well, when you do download Reach, but when you, boot it up, you don't go into Reach, you go into the Master Chief Collection, which is quite nice. And then you go into the campaigns and Reach is in there and everything else is grayed out because it hasn't been released yet on Steam. And that's actually
neat.
It is neat. And it means all the multiplayer stuff, which I haven't touched yet, is all available in one mission. I don't know, how what it's going to feel like in time. I don't know whether they're going to like some people love Halo 3 multiplayer. Does that mean it will have its own area in this? I don't know. But, yeah, it's, for old people, it's like Christmas.
It's like Christmas for a lot of people right now, Alex.
Yeah.
So I will bounce off this into talking a little bit about Destiny. I was happy we talk about
You've been
Destiny
playing
a lot.
the new,
so the new season launched this week. I've had quite a big Destiny time lately. So there's two experiences to relay. One is, I did the big grind to get the season title.
Did you? You made it?
Yeah, I did.
Fuck.
Please, send me your...
So you got to level 100 in the...
Oh, not just that. I got to like 115 or something on the
Nice.
thing, but doing all the triumphs for the seasons. So.
Oh yeah, no, I know that was, but I remember that one.
There's some of them, and some of them were real rough, and there's some, one thing about the new one is they fixed a lot of that stuff, which is good, but actually the grind itself is not the point. The point really was the sort of, the why of it, because I was definitely at a crossroads on Saturday, I think, where I was like, I need to get over a particular hump with this if I'm going to do it, or I need to make my peace with not doing it. This is the one.
Did you have a sense that you could do it?
Yeah. That was the mistake. Don't get slightly in range of it, because then you got the anxious decision to make. It's, new season starts on Tuesday and I'm miles away is a fair enough place to be in. I was close enough. So I think on Saturday last week I played something like 35 games of Momentum Control in a day. I do love Destiny PvP, but that was a lot. But I did it. And what was really interesting about it is I think I was talking to someone about this, that I was on this sort of crossroads of like, I really committed hard to Shadowkeep when it came out, and it was the right thing at the right time. And I've had a lot of work stuff recently, and it's just been the comfort food of games for me. And I know a lot of friends for whom it's this as well. I think almost everyone I know who's been like under a lot of work related or other stress this year has turned to Destiny within this orbit of my life. Mm-hmm. Like it is the perfect thing for that.
It's a brain switch off, but
it is
just enough brain switch on for it to be comforting.
It's meaning, it is a game in its own right. Yeah. It has plenty of stuff going on. But it's also, and it's aesthetically pleasing, and there's lots of things I like about it. I feel rewarded by it consistently, but there is an element of this is like, and so I was literally on the weekend thinking like, to what extent is this the output of a certain kind of madness, or not madness, that's loaded, but, like a momentary sort of like, I need this right now, but I'm never going to need this again, so I don't need to rush this title, right? But in doing it and doing the thing I like about grinding in games, which is figuring out the how of it and plotting that, there's part of my brain that will always be a project manager, and just doing and managing a project makes me happy. And so getting that thing over the line was really satisfying. Obviously lots of people get the title, it's fine, but that was fun. And actually it sort of exposed me to all of Destiny's systems in a really interesting way, and made me more enthusiastic for it, not less. And it made me feel the way I did actually at the end of Destiny 1, where I sort of, I did it in actually with a little bit of time to go. So I spent a bit of time on my lunch break, I think on Tuesday, cleaning out the vault, looking through my weapons, because weapons can roll with different perks, finding the good ones, binning the ones that I just kept to check later, hoovering up my resources, figuring out what shader combination I want to use in the new season. Just all this little housekeeping, dress up stuff. Having my character set at like, this is what I look like at the end of the Season of the Undying. Then Season of Dawn, screenshot, tie a bow on it, and then excited for the new thing. And that was actually a really nice feeling. And I will always defend that pursuit of a feeling. That's one of the games of
I think that if the feeling you have the day afterwards is positive, then I think that it's fine. It's like, I think that you can feel immediately sort of empty. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And that was good. And then the new ones come out, and so far it seems so they're not doing the expansions they were previously doing. So it's not like tons of new stuff in terms of locations. There's like a big new activity and lots of new gear and some quite substantial design changes. But like substantial if you're a Destiny nerd, so I don't necessarily want to bombard the podcast with them. But one thing they are doing is they are getting more playful with perks in a way that has started to bring in a bit of that moment to moment sort of change of plan stuff. Not, you made me think of it when we talk about Halo, like not to anywhere near the same extent, but like, each season has its exotic that you get basically at the start of the season if you have the season pass.
Oh, okay.
So in the previous season, it was a hand cannon called Ariana's Vow, which
lovely hand cannon,
which is basically a sniper rifle.
Yeah.
But its trick is it's a sniper rifle, really. It just happens to be a hand cannon. The new one is a scout rifle called Symmetry, which has a real weird mechanic, which, I mean, there's a lot of weird exotics in Destiny, but it's definitely one of the weirder ones where it is a high rate of fire scout rifle. As you kill, enemies, it gets this stacking buff, like a charge. It's an arc weapon, so it charges with electricity, basically. Stacking buff. It doesn't do anything. It just charges up to 15. And then at any time you can hold the reload key rather than, if you tap reload, you just reload the gun. If you hold reload key, you charge it with all this energy and then it becomes a kind of homing, seeking grenade launcher, which fires these sort of, they're weird projectiles. They're like sort of little darts that blow up with electricity that sort of seek out enemies to an extent. But also if you fire them sort of without an obvious target, they have really severe bullet drops, so they act almost like a little artillery weapon. But it gives you this sort of sudden, like short range electric hose thing. And trying to figure out how to use it effectively is really weird, but it's actually surprisingly
sounds
fun.
a little bit related to that scout rifle where I can't remember what it's called. It's a solar one where you get 3 headshots and you see little 3 lights light up.
Oh yeah.
And after the third one, you get to fire a very powerful explosive sort of solar blast.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of that to it, but it sort of adds this element of like, what's interesting about it is you get into your rhythm in Destiny and this gun asks you to add a different element to that rhythm, which is watch this buff. When it's charged, find a good opportunity to switch it into its charge mode and then use it, which just feels really different. It's almost like a weapon type that doesn't exist. The other thing that I thought was cool is they've added I got a really, really good roll on a gun like the first gun I got, which just means that my yields will be barren for the coming season. But it's got this new perk, which, so Destiny has elemental damage types, but one thing it doesn't have, which Destiny 1 had, is the ability to have an element in every slot. You know, that caused balance issues in Destiny 1 with what were called elemental primaries at the time. And they've never really revisited that until now. So now there are these kinetic weapons, as in the default damage type, which have a perk, which means if you throw a grenade, they gain the element of your subclass, so your grenade type.
While your grenade is out?
No, until you stow them and draw it, until you swap weapons.
Okay.
So it's kind of interesting because it's like, so I now have a sidearm, so the little pistols that can become any element that I want it to be, for the duration that I have it out. Which is a really strange mechanic, but I actually did manage to use it effectively earlier, which was running around headshotting normal ads with my little hand cannon and then seeing a wizard that had a solar shield, throwing a grenade into a different group of enemies to turn it into a solar weapon and then killing the wizard without having to kind of break my little combo, which was super cool. Yeah. And it was like, then I had a mission that needed to farm some solar kills. So I had 3 solar weapons, which I'd never be able to do normally. And it was like, it's, you know.
Yeah, it's a nice little kind of extra involvement-y things, yeah.
I also want to give a shout out while we're talking about it, we can wrap up talking about it, to, it also obviously moves the storyline forward, as it ever does in Destiny. But one thing I've realized, and I was thinking about this while I was waiting for the kettle to boil today, Destiny has 2 stories that it does in most expansions. The 2 stories in Destiny are, a skeleton's uncle knows what you did, and he's come around to tell your dad about it.
Yeah.
And the other one is, oh Christ, I've left the time machine on.
Yeah.
Right, those are the 2. There's a few, I was struggling to reconcile every expansion with those 2, but a surprising amount of them work.
So the last one was Skeleton Uncle's guy.
Well, the last one was interesting. It was both.
It was
Skeleton Uncle, in this case, as Pyramid from Dark Side of the Moon or whatever the fuck. Yeah. Skeleton Uncle. There's also a big skeleton.
But then also there's but then there's a side story of the
Skeleton's aunt. Yeah. But the Vex side of it was, oh Christ, I've left the time machine on. You know, Destiny 1 was very much, oh Christ, I've left the time machine on. First expansion, Crota's End, was Skeleton's Uncle. Third expansion, House of Wolves, was Oh Christ, I've left the time machine on. Then Taken King was Skeleton's Uncle. Then, Rise of Iron is one of the ones that's hard to reconcile, but I would put it in the Oh Christ, I left the time machine on, because it's all about finding out that Granddad still got it. Then that's maybe the third archetype. Yeah, actually, yeah, the rare
Granddad
third version is that Granddad still got it. So yeah, Rise of Iron, Granddad still got it. The Iron Lords are coming back. Destiny 2 is actually, in its base game, Granddad still got it, because the Traveler at the end finally fucking does something. Grandad, in this case, the big space egg, has still got it. Curse of Osiris. Oh Christ, I've left the time machine on. Very literally. Safe. Warmind. Grandad still got it. Grandad, in this case, being the ancient war AI Rasputin.
Yeah, that's true. Because I was going to say, maybe that's left the.
It's also Skeleton's uncle, because you fight a Skeleton's uncle who happens to be a big snake.
Yeah.
Yes.
Space worm.
Yeah. But he's a Skeleton's uncle. They're all Skeleton's uncle at the end of the day. And that brings us around to Forsaken. Which is
that's a tricky one.
The reason it's the pinnacle of Destiny. No, it's not. Fucking not. It's not. It ends with an environment that's trapped in a time loop. It's oh Christ, I've left the time machine on again. It's one of the best Destiny stories.
Grandad still got it.
Is it?
Well, I suppose he dies, doesn't he?
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't. Grandad doesn't have it. No, actually, I think this is one of the reasons Forsaken, it might be the peak of the whole series, is because it manages to hide which of the three it is until right at the end, when it turns out. And actually, at the heart of the Dreaming City, which is trapped in a time loop, is another Skeleton's uncle. So, at the end of the day, it's always going to come back to that. And then after that it was the Seasons. But Black Armory, fundamentally, Grandad still got it. Season of the Drifter. Also, to some extent, Grandad still got it. Little bit, oh Christ, I left the time machine on.
Yeah, there's quite a bit. Actually, I'd say half and half.
Yeah, half and half. Season of Opulence, all about Emperor Callus. Very much Grandad still got it. And that leads us up to Shadowkeep, which is, Shadowkeep combined with Season of the Undying was 1-for-1, an equal match of Skeleton's Uncle and oh Christ, I've left the time machine on. You'll be pleased to know, to bring us up to the present, Season of Dawn is 100%. Actually, no, it's a combo of Grandad still got it and oh Christ, I've left the time machine on.
Well, I thought it was oh Christ, because it's about Mercury Man's gone and pissed it up again.
Yeah, it's about Mercury Man's magic washing machine, which you have to use to go backwards and forwards in time to stop some turtle space marines from confirming that your Grandad did indeed still have it. I love this fucking game.
Oh man, I didn't realize there was so much Destiny.
There's been a lot.
There's been a lot of Destiny.
It's been like 5 years now.
Oh yeah, I know. Wow. Fuck me.
I know.
It's good to go to the Mercury. Mercury has felt very backwatery for a long time. Like nothing interesting or important has happened there for fucking ages. It's good.
Yeah, it was like where they hosted the Halloween sort of event. That was basically all it was for. Yeah. Man, I remember how exciting that was the first time we went there in Destiny 1, where it's like the hidden planet. Yeah. Now look at it. How far we've come. Forward in time, backwards in time, medium in time.
Out of time.
Skeleton's uncle, Skeleton's aunt, Skeleton's granddad, Skeleton's dad, Skeleton's son, Skeleton's daughter. All of them, the whole family.
I think that all of those skeleton relatives have literally been in the game.
There's a lot of them. There's going to be a decent number of people who either stop listening at this point,
I was wondering,
or have finally, for the first time, understood why Destiny is so good. Thanks and sorry.
Shall we
do some questions from shit. Questions.
From shit questions.
From shit. No, they're good questions.
Good questions.
They're always good questions. Yeah. So I thought we were going to be completely in sync. We just weren't at all.
No, well, I did throw a spanner in the works because of my puckish personality.
You always do that. It's the only thing that's for, as far as I can tell.
I live for your look of indignation as I throw a spanner in your work.
Thing is, I live with Pip. So your spanners are insignificant to me.
God damn it. I thought I was meaningful to you.
I've been trained on spanners you couldn't believe. I've seen spanners ricochet off C-beams off the shoulder of Orion. I've watched spanners glitter in the dark. It's like the Tannhauser Gate. All of these things I was hoping to achieve lost in time. Yeah, no, it's nothing to me, Alex. It's nothing. Yeah, all you're seeing on my face is a sort of learned reaction to, I guess this is happening.
This is just a thing that
I control nothing. This question that has been written to us has been written to us by Clement, who writes, Dear quick save and, oh no, I meant quick load. Oh god, what have I done? Worst quick save? Question mark. Mine involved a snowy level in Call of Duty 2, the expert difficulty mode, 1 health point, and a recently thrown grenade. Believe it or not, I got out of it. I had enough spare time for that kind of challenge back then. Sadly, my keyboard was never the same after that taxing afternoon. Thank you for consistently brightening up my daily commute with the mildest takes.
Happy to be pleasuring those journeys. Yeah, I do. I think I Call of Duty 2, that is one of my big, quick save memories. Like, just because, yeah, I remember levels on that I was on for a very long time, but I don't have any specific memory. I'm struggling to remember one where whatever game it was, it allowed you to save on the cusp of death. Like, it was just after, like, the screen had blanked out, but presumably the game was still logically running and therefore accepted the quick save. That was painful. But like, I can't remember what game it was, and I haven't had a quick save drama for ages, but I do have like a continual quick save, quick load kind of, anxiety. Will I press the right button? Because I often do fuck it up, but in kind of boring, kind of like, oh, fucking hell ways. But like, the anxiety is very, very strong. I usually play on controllers as well. So I'm usually having to reach over to the keyboard to do it. And my fingers are inexact at the best of times, but especially if I'm not even that on the keyboard.
I've always thought that about you.
I was trying to type today, and I was just, how have I chosen a job that relies on me pressing accurately buttons?
Pressing accurately the buttons.
Yeah. I think that's grammatically correct.
Press to accurately the button. Done, the writer. I don't recall a real quick save. I'm sure maybe there have been. I think my version of this is, I think about it a lot when to quick save. It's basically an extra game mechanic. So if it's present, I'm thinking about it all the time, trying not to fuck it up. A decent track record with not fucking it up. But this leads to a level of management of the experience that I think maybe has caused just every time you save and you store data and data needs to be loaded, presumably that costs the earth something. You know, there must be a cost just to it somewhere.
Wearing the gears inside
brought more, just electricity consumed for no reason, that is a big old stone to throw in this glass house.
All
but
of the atoms.
Yeah, some entropic weight to this thing I have done. But nonetheless, I've got, any given hard drive I have has detailed saves, because I tend not to quick save. I tend to like the old, the chunky, non-temporary saves as well. Like leaving the house today, I saved my Phoenix Point campaign. I had the option to overwrite my existing save or save in a new slot. I've only got one save. I saved in a new slot. I'm going to say it right now, I am never in my life going back to reasonably successful hours to see if I could relive those 2 reasonably successful hours. I will happily replay a new campaign. I will go through it again. That served no purpose except to satisfy a part of my brain that really would like to have both. You know what I mean? Like, I could sacrifice a little bit of hard drive space in order to have the option, should I ever need it, to go back to turn 4 of a Total War campaign I never finished. Like, I have all of this. And I don't know if the data, the space on my hard drive that it takes up is ultimately meaningful, but like, if the universe does run on information as a kind of simulation, then I have fed garbage into this system. I mean, I've been feeding garbage into that system for years, but I'm adding to some stock of what the universe needs to remember.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's obviously taking up some kind of physical space.
Yes, it is. Like, it must have weight. We can't live in, it's gotta be, it's either totally meaningless, in which case, it's how do I differentiate my own time then from...
It's probably going to be the one surviving artifact of your existence.
I think maybe that is the concern. It's like, you'll create a certain number of... I've had a beer and a half, you can tell. You're going to create a certain number of things in your life, right? And molecularly or otherwise, they're going to decay in different orders. Something will be the last remnant of you on Earth or in the cosmos.
Yeah.
And I suspect the last remnant of me will be
Turn 2, Total War, never to be returned to.
Yeah, Total War, Medieval 2. Turn 2, Holy Roman Empire, didn't get on with it, re-rolled, you know? And it'll be like, that was the last object I interacted with.
What can we tell about this person from this save? There'll be enormous amounts of academic research into how to interpret these game saves.
You're absolutely right that this only really has value as a comment if these things are indeed observed. I don't really think they will be. It's something about the knowledge that eventually they will be annihilated. And really the last thing of mine that is annihilated is the last thing to go. This is in some ways the slowest save. You know?
I like that you've taken this quick save disaster question into the true disaster.
I think I could probably, I don't know, it's just these beers, but I think I could probably get any of these questions back to existential dread if we tried hard enough.
I didn't realise I'd got Brewdog Ennui Club.
Exactly. I think a lot of people are experiencing a certain amount of Brewdog ennui. I think we've done, I do not mind these functional ales when they show up for £4 Don Le Co-op, but Marsh hates them, so I feel like we're committing a kind of a quiet crime here by drinking a box of this.
I think we should artfully arrange the cans and box in the middle of the room where we can't. We should probably note that Marsh very, very, very kindly left us a bottle of whiskey with a wonderful message on it saying, "Drink me, definitely not poisoned." Which we haven't touched because we decided to have these depressing beers instead.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, to be honest, I think the existential dread is only going to go in a different place with the whiskey, poisoned or not. A kind gesture, but didn't want to get hammered. Just get spooky. Hopefully that answers that question. Did you have anything to add on the topic of saves?
We've saved out.
Saved it. Let's see. I never know how to pronounce this. Velik, from Discord writes, "Hello, Weatherwaxes and Gandalfs. Let's talk about wizards. As we all know, adding wizards to games immediately makes them more appealing. For example, Departed, Tom F's, he's not dead. He's in Canada.
He has literally departed. Like that is,
yeah, but normally
dear departed.
Yeah, exactly. Departed Tom F's upcoming Tactical Breach Wizards. Another example would be the Magic Circle, which I still haven't played the full game of because I strongly believe that it should actually be about wizards rather than being about game designers. That's a good line. My theory about wizards, go on, is that they add a fun layer of unreality to a situation. This could make otherwise possibly troubling situations into enjoyable ones. For example, police with weapons busting into houses, SWAT style. Or it can add a layer of remove to otherwise on-the-nose characters or metaphors. Of course, I've probably played neither of the games I'm using as examples, so this could all be total nonsense. So why are wizards good anyway? And what games could be improved by keeping the same situation but making everyone wizards? Thanks for reading, everybody. So the obvious answer is all of them, but I think this could be a long one, but I think wizards are good, part one. I think all games, see if you go with me on this one, Alex. I think all games are better when you give them a certain amount of benefit of the doubt. I think, particularly as game critics, it can be easy to filter things into genres, write things off, whether that's from fiction or a mechanical standpoint or both.
Or the makers.
Well, or who's made them or what's in them. I think, if you put a wizard in something, there are some contexts where this wouldn't work quite so well. But actually wizard specifically is very important. If you try and, zhuzh it up a bit by having a mage or a thaumaturge or a sorcerer, you've entered the territory of lore. Wizards live slightly detached from lore. Wizard is a fundamentally silly word because, it's big pointy hat. It's Harry Potter. It's something 50s schoolboys say. It's in this.
It's totally unfocused as well. Like, a thaumaturge, like, as you said, like a thaumaturge does whatever they do.
Yeah.
And, whereas a wizard, it's just, what do they do? Magic.
Yeah, it's an entity. It's like a genie. It's like it's a presence. But even those things have some load. It's strangely baggaged with meaning fucking anything, but in some ways it's very significant. I watched, for some reason, I watched Star Wars A New Hope this morning at 7 a.m. I've had a long day.
This is going on, is it?
Yeah.
Hang on. Why are you only there?
I know we had to miss some days. So we've got, I'm getting up the reason I didn't want to drink the whiskey is because I get up at 6 in the morning tomorrow to go watch Empire Strikes Back. And then on Friday, I'm getting up early to go watch, I'm going to go watch Empire Strikes Back. I'm going to go to the polling station. I'm going to come home. I'm going to work all before 10. And my life makes sense. Shut up. Anyway, so I was watching it and there's a great line, I think, and it always sticks out. There's a lot of things I love about that film, but there's a line that always sticks out to me, which is when Uncle Owen says the phrase, "That old wizard's just a crazy old man." And I always think about reversing it. That old man's just a crazy old wizard. And it works both ways. It sort of enters this sort of meaning cycle where like, it's just like, the heart of that is the word wizard. And I think the way I was going to say, and I talked about Star Wars for some reason, is that when you add a wizard, you immediately have to sit up and go, I don't know what this is anymore. And you have to extend it the benefit of the doubt somewhat.
Yeah.
You have to go with it wherever it's going. When Destiny said that wizards came from the moon and everyone laughed at it.
But it was very important.
It's very important. I
think it's the very soul of the game.
Yeah. I think it's like it detaches tone to some extent because wizards are funny. Like it doesn't make it, what I mean is it makes a lot of things uncertain. Things are mechanically possible when wizards exist.
Yeah. Suddenly
tone is not set. Is this serious wizard town? Has this got a lightly camp element to it?
Yeah. I think it's a very good point because I agree that, the wizards, they are, when you say wizard, you don't know what kind of wizard they are. It could be a young wizard. It could be a frail wizard. It could be a frail wizard with great power. It could be a young wizard with terrible powers. There are the archetypes for all of these things. What kind of wizard is going to be? Suddenly it's on the game, the story, to set the wizard, to define the wizard. And it's going to be a different wizard, whichever wizarding game it's in.
Right.
And that instantly, when you hear wizard, you go, ho, we're in for something here. Where is it going to take us? It could be anything.
Right. It's like this idea has existed throughout history, right? In fiction, right? Like you put fairies in something historically, that the story is going in a particular direction. These things can destabilize expectations about genre, which is really exciting and fun. It's sort of the trickster element. The interesting relationship that has with games is games are all about defining what's possible in an environment. And because really anything is, it's about taking away possibility more than anything else when you define game design.
Yeah.
And so, when you add a wizard, obviously, as you just said, you have to define what the wizard can do, but it creates this sort of little bit of wiggle room where things don't have to make total sense. If you add one wizard to Call of Duty, lots of stuff just starts to fall into place.
Suddenly, well, this is a game now. Do you
know what it is?
The one thing is that, I think we have to talk about mistreatment of wizards because I think that wizards generally simply become an object for making projectiles, which is basically meaning that your wizard is a gun.
The issue of fantasy gun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that wizards should be more than that. I think that it misrepresents them.
Right. Yeah. So yes, you're absolutely right because fundamentally magic is about rewriting the rules of the world. Mm-hmm. This is both how magic tends to work in fiction that treats it as something other than fireballs and stuff. But it's also, how, to a greater or lesser extent, how real, magical theory works, right? Like, the creation and destruction of sigils is a functionally batch files for reality. Whether they work or not is down to the individual's perception of whether they work or not. But like, there's something that games, I think you're right. Boiling that down to gun, but it's just my outstretched hand and a laser's coming out of it. It doesn't get to the heart of it. A good wizard in a game makes you want to break rules and kind of question what you're doing your life.
Yeah.
I don't know why that's like a cool teen wizards.
I was just thinking about Diablo. I was talking about Diablo 3 because it's most. Is there any functional difference between its wizard and its witch hunter?
Demon hunter.
Demon hunter. Both ranged, both fragile. I guess the demon hunter's a bit more mobile.
Demon hunter's a lot more mobile.
Yeah, more acrobatic. So there's a difference. But like, it doesn't have to be. And where's the wizarding? It's like it's a placeholder wizard.
Yeah, I would agree. That's a good example of when it's literally a wizard, but it's a wizard that is fully in their own territory.
Like you get, okay, what does the wizards do? Well, they do the elements. Wizardy fire, wizardy electricity, wizardy water.
Yeah, right. Everyone in Diablo is a wizard, really.
Yeah.
And not at the same time.
Yeah.
When everyone's a wizard, no one's a wizard.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
But yet they've got a class called the wizard.
Exactly.
See, that is that's bad wizard.
They really should have just reached for the cop-out button and called it a thaumaturge.
and then you're already in purgatory, so.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But so are we all, that's the point. Like, we all live there. None of us can be the wizard. That's the point. You can't be the wizard. You can only live in the wizard's presence and understand the possibilities that arise from the idea of the wizard.
Yeah.
But the truth of the wizard will always evade you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the wizard.
And that
Not
is
to be
why
confused
wizards
with
are
the
good.
pinball wizard, which is just someone who's very good at pinball, as I understand it.
The pinball thurge.
Foosball warlock.
As for games that kind of can be improved, I was racking my mind because I thought, oh yeah, a military. Tom's actually managed to completely fucking corner.
Yeah, he has.
The incongruous wizard positioning thing, because he's now done a tactical sort of military thing with wizards, and that is the one genre where wizards are the most welcome.
It is, yeah, but because it's
also
already they fit perfectly because they're not there, but fundamentally those are stories about societies of bearded men who solve the world's problems through a mixture of righteous belief that they're right and sort of, in the case of the video games, kind of magical luck, So
I was about to say that, like, you put wizard into COD, which have come up. I've said COD quite a few times in this episode. Anyway, you put wizard in COD, that wizard's going to fuck COD up. But then I thought, actually, hang on, no, because COD is constantly putting wizards by any other name, i.e. made up military technology.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah. Clancy's Wizard is what that's called.
Yeah.
Like Occam's razor.
So Clancy doesn't have the balls to put some fucking proper wizards into his game.
Right. Well, yeah. What is, an EMP is just a magical spell.
It's just
a magical spell. Yeah. Like when the North Koreans have stolen a drone network that will assassinate all the politicians. It's a
like
death
having
curse.
a fucking it's seeing the world through the eyes of your pet wizard, pet eagle.
Yeah, exactly. Which is literally something they did in Assassin's Creed, where they took all the drone stuff from Ghost Recon and put it in Assassin's Creed, but it's a bird now.
If I was a wizard, I'd feel fucking shortchanged. I'd be thinking, these games are doing wizarding stuff, but not calling it wizarding because they know that they've got to pay us a licensing fee, and they're weaseling their way out of it.
Are they like DMCA takedowns for wizardry? Is a DMCA takedown a magical spell? Because it removes
Disney
things
is
from
the most
world.
powerful of all of the DMCA.
I've seen Fantasia.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's been very instructive.
I think, yeah. Wow. I mean, that's really the ultimate magic. Money. our last question, because there are only the two of us, so
we don't have many answers in us.
It comes from Veer Serif, who writes, Dear Creighton Crowbar, have you ever received or given quote-unquote advice for games that you wish you'd never heard, either for a specific game or for gaming as a whole? An example that comes to mind is, you could fix that with a mod for any Elder Scrolls game, causing me to lose multiple weekends over the years to modding and remodding Skyrim, and also forever ruining my ability to play without a part in my brain going, that sunset looks wonky. Time to check which of my 7 lighting and or weather affecting mods is responsible. Beware the monkey's paw, Veer Serif.
I think all advice for games is kind of poisonous because it introduces. You're kind of meant to be learning for yourself because that is what the fun thing is. So as soon as somebody tells you what, like the very basic example of that is the fucking game guide, where a game can look terribly stressful when you just see it as a list of things to do.
Do you know what the opposite of a wizard is? Advice. Right?
Go on.
Because you see a wizard in a game, and as I say, it's this destabilizing influence. It sets your mind free to imagine the possibilities of where the game might be taking you. Not all the time, but sometimes. Like Willy Wonka style, leading you into the chocolate factory. Advice is just saying, like, don't eat too much or you'll be murdered, which is the truth, like, the truth of the chocolate factory. It's going to spoil that moment for you, you know? And then whoever wins the fucking chocolate factory is going to become rote, arbitrary, dead feeling, you know?
Yeah.
The ambiguity is the magic of it, really, isn't it? You were saying, sorry.
It's about the journey.
Yeah, it is about the journey, not the destination. And if a lot of children are murdered in a chocolate factory along the way, that's just apparently how passing a business along works. I don't know. I don't make the rules. You
really wanted to go into Willy Wonka's factory when you were a boy.
I was terrified. I saw that film far too young. And I think might have been among one of the first films I ever saw. Yeah. It wasn't the first film I saw in the cinema. That was The Jungle Book. That terrified me. But no, I remember because I remember watching it in a house that we left when I was 4. So I was really young.
Ooh,
and it freaked me the fuck out. It still bothers me, that film.
Drowning in chocolate.
I don't want it. It's a big no thank you from me for that particular wizard.
Chocolate thurge.
Well, I think it's because it breaks the, one of the promises of the presence of a wizard, which is that you're on an adventure with the wizard and they're here to furnish your experience. The problem with Willy Wonka, and I can't believe I'm getting onto this, is that it's the first half of that, but it turns out it's a test. That feels like a bit of a trap. At that point, you're not really a wizard anymore. You're a cop.
Yeah. See, I see him as more of a mage, the mage in the castle, you know, as opposed to the wizard along for the journey. And
it's not the classic hero's journey, isn't it? All the other children perished in it. So I won.
De facto won.
Yeah, exactly. By default, owner of Chocolate Factory. Joseph Campbell didn't write that down, did he? That's not how Star Wars ends. Luke gets picked to leave Tatooine because everyone else on Tatooine gets set on fire. By Obi-Wan. Actually, that occurred to me this morning. It's very suspicious that Obi-Wan's like, come to Alderaan. Looks like no. And then he's like, well, you stay here and set these Jawas on fire for 15 minutes. I've got to go do something. What? Never mind. And then, Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru's been set on fire. Guess he's got to go to Alderaan now.
Oh, who did it?
Who did it? Would it be the guy that we last saw him in the great film Revenge of the Sith, just letting his best friend slowly slide into a volcano? That guy? No prior relationship with fire? It's questionable.
Bad wizard.
Very questionable.
Naughty wizard.
No, he's a good wizard, and I take it all back. What were we talking about?
Advice.
Advice. So I would say I really don't like being, so I'm again struggling to think about a specific example, but I really don't like it when I am talking to and this is often completely benign as well as advice is. If I'm playing through a big RPG or something and I have managed to overcome the big town problem to the extent that I can, I'm a couple of acts in or whatever, and I got my stuff and my gear, and someone says, did you recruit the gnome pirate in Act 2? And I was like, no.
That's a good one.
No? And I'm like, it's great. And I'm like, fuck, this is garbage now. Even if I love the game, it's a hateful experience because this dream gnome that I can never have has been taken from me by me. And now the shame of that will haunt me.
So really, in order to get through Act 4, you need to have got the sword of Damocles from Act 2. That does require finding the dungeon of Ariadne.
It does.
And you just think,
fuck it. Yeah. It's retroactive Big Town. It's like I didn't realize the town was so big.
Yeah. I've just come to terms with the bigness of the town.
Yeah.
And you're telling me the town is bigger?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The town is bigger and I have left. Yeah.
Do I have to go back to Big Town?
You can't go back to Big Town. Like it is the mid RPG campaign equivalent of a midlife crisis. It is the letter from a childhood sweetheart saying, why didn't we ever get together? And you're like, I don't know.
It comes at that part at the time in the game as well, where you know what you're doing. And like, you're on the journey now.
You're married to this fucking cleric you met in Act 3.
You're making commitments now. And now, oh God, it could all be so much different.
What would it have been like?
If only we can sack it off. Sack it all off.
It's too late. It's too late. You chose your subclass. You didn't realize you could dual class, I don't know, rogue and mystic archer.
You mean you didn't get that skill? You need the skill. It's just the game isn't fun without that skill.
You'll never play it again.
Yeah.
Because of time. But if you try and change it now, you're just going to feel weird.
Oh, this Brewdog.
And then yeah, man, the existential Brewdog. Then you get into the situation that Seraph describes where you think, oh, get a mod, get a trainer, modify that save file, you teleport that gnome pirate or whatever into your campaign.
But then,
you're like, I have no relationship with you. You've just appeared in my life and I feel a kind of shame, but I feel like I can't go back to my party of other NPC adventurers because they know what I've done.
They look at you.
Yeah, exactly. That's the stain of it. Oh no!
Why do we play games?
Well, because there are wizards in them sometimes.
Oh yeah.
This is it. Falling down that mod hole of like, I can fix this if only you download the right software. That's the dark magic. That's warlockery. That's hacks, like that's into the sort of, what have I done, school of doomed mage, like alone in your tower.
Self-destructively, kind of obsessively.
Yeah, exactly. Saving and resaving points in time, creating an endless library of moments, pointless moments that only you understand. Like a mental map of your own kind of Total War psychosphere that is meaningless.
Landscape of moments.
Exactly. Because control is an illusion. Because control is a complete lie, and the only, the true joy comes from accepting that a wizard is someone else, and you are not them, and occasionally your life will be blessed by their presence.
Maybe the wizard will take you by the hand
and give you a chocolate factory. Or maybe they'll just leave. And that's okay too. The Russians have got an EMP. And you've got a job to do. I can't believe that Twin Peaks VR game is real good.
Yeah. It's all wizards.
It's all wizards.
It's just wizards. Well.
That's, whatever that was, that's all of it we have in us.
Well, it's all gone into me. This can is now empty.
If you'd like to send us a question for a future episode of the Crate and Crowbar,
we may talk about wizards during it.
We will do. You can do so by emailing us at questions@crateandcrowbar.com or tweeting us at Crate and Crowbar. Please bear in mind that the next episode of the podcast, which may go up slightly late because it's a big thing to schedule, will be the Christmas episode, the wrap up of the year, which, all being well, will involve all 6 of us.
Mm-hmm. Tom's back.
Cause Tom, actually that's a good point. Tom Francis is, back for Christmas to visit, so.
A holiday for him.
A holiday for him from his new home in Canada. So he will join us, and so we're not sure exactly when we're going to schedule it, but we'll be doing that one, which means there won't be any questions section in the next episode because it's going to be its own thing. So you'll get to questions in the new year. If you would like to, join the Discord community, link for that is in the show notes and on the website at crateandcrowbar.com. You can find our YouTube channel at youtube.com/crateandcrowbar. And thank you, to our Patreon subscribers and backers. Done another year of this nonsense. And that is largely, well, entirely because, you support it.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. If you would like to follow myself or Alex as individuals on Twitter, you can find me at cthurston. That's CTHURSTNEN. Alex.
And I am at Rotational. ROTATIONOA.
Anyway.
Thanks
Thanks for listening.